Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, guys. Welcome back again to Journey My Dream to Life. I was in here today, and in this video we're going to be talking about a tutorial on how to memorize one or half page of the Quran for beginners.
يا ديمة خير وعطاء ويمام نقاء وسخاء يا نجما شع فأبهجنا يا شعلة نور وضاء.
So the first concept we need to understand when it comes to memorizing the Quran is this. You're either going to memorize one page from the Quran as a whole unit, or you can, break it down into parts, take them verse by verse. If you want to memorize the Quran as a whole portion, then you have to be someone that has a very fast memory to retain things. So as for a beginner, if you want to take it bit by bit, like verse by verse, this is what you need to do. So the first thing is you get your Quran. You take your Quran, right? You open up to the Quran now. For example, you want to memorize a page, or let's say half page from Surah, let's say, for example, from Surah Ali Imran, or from Surah Al-Baqarah, or from any Surah in the Quran, right? What you need to do now is the first verse of the Quran. You need to make sure you're sharp. Now you need to bring in all your senses, like you need to activate all your sixth sense, subhanAllah. Make sure you're concentrating on what you're doing and you have the right determination and the right intention, right? So the first thing you want to do right now is you take the first verse, and this is best done if you have a teacher. If you have a teacher like my students, what I do to them is, so I'm going to show you guys an example based on how I take my students, right? So let's say we want to memorize, half or one page of Surah Al-Taha. So we open to the page. Now what we're going to do is the first verse, what you're going to do right now is you recite the first verse 3 times. قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون أول من ألقى قالوا يا موسى. We keep on doing that for 3 times. Now on the fourth one, we're going to read that with the Quran closed. قالوا يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون أول من ألقى. So that for the verse number 1. You go to the next verse. Let's say, okay, fine, you're taking half page of the Quran, which is going to be approximately 7.5 lines. So now you go to the next verse. قال بل ألقوا. Then you continue. We've recited the first verse from our memory, and now we're reciting the second verse from our memory as well. We're done with the 2 sessions, right? Now we combine between the first that we memorized and the second verse. We're going to recite them 3 times as well. The first, looking into the Quran. The second time, mixing between looking and closing your eyes. Then the third, closing your eyes or checking the Quran, or where you're closing the Quran, reading the 2 verses from your memory. Then you continue until you get to the half part of the Quran. So when we're done with that, what we're going to do? Now we've successfully memorized all of the verses that we are required to memorize, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to divide all of them. If you have 7 lines, if you have like 6 verses in half page, or maybe you have 10 verses in a full page, you're going to divide it, regardless of the portion, you're going to divide the portion you're memorizing, divide it by half. Recite the first half. Maybe if you have 6 verses, you recite the first 3 verses from your memory 3 times. 3 verses from your memory 3 times. When you come to the next half, 3 verses from your memory 3 times. Like you can recite the first time for the first one. You can recite them by looking into the Quran. And then the remaining 2 times you do them, without looking into the Quran. When you're done, now you combine all of them together one more time. You're going to read all of them 3 times. The first, looking into the Quran so that you can have, a picture memory of what you're memorizing. So you combine all of them together, you recite them by looking into the Quran the first time. As for the second time, you mix between looking into the Quran and closing your eyes. As for the third time, you recite them from your memory. And you are done. So don't forget to like the video, comment below, and, subscribe to the channel. Barakallahu fikum. Wassalamu alaikum.